You are listening to the Atlanta Real Estate Forum radio show, all about real estate edition, shining a light on the movers and shakers in the real estate industry, the home builders, developers, realtors, and suppliers making it all happen. And now, here are today's hosts.
Good morning and welcome back to the All About Real Estate edition. I am your host, Todd Schnick, joined by my co-host and friend, Carol Morgan. Before we kick things off, however, we do want to thank New American Funding for being our 2021 show sponsor. Now our 10th year on the air. It has been great having them as our partner. All right, Carol, speaking of New American Funding, on a really neat conversation today with another one of their great leaders. I'm looking forward to it.
Always fun to have the New American Funding leadership in the house, so to speak. So today I'd like to welcome Frank Fuentes. He's the Vice President of Multicultural Lending for New American Funding. Welcome, Frank, and tell us a little bit about yourself.
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you so much for the love and the support. I know we've got a strong relationship with you all, so thank you so much. And yeah, happy to be here. A little bit about myself. I started with New American Funding actually 20 years ago. You can believe that.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun. So before I even get into the history here at New American Funding, I was born here in California, Southern California. I'm the son of immigrant parents. Both of my parents came here actually to pick strawberries in the strawberry fields back in the 60s here in Orange County. And, but it was my mom's hope and dream. In her words, she would always tell us, I want my kids to work with their brains and not with their backs, right? Because I mean, as immigrant farm workers, it was always picking strawberries, picking vegetables, and just physical work. So she would always instill in us, I want my kids, my two sons, my two daughters, to work with their brain and don't end up like us working on the fields or busting your back, right? Mm-hmm. So she was actually the one who kind of planted that seed in me to get into real estate. We started in a lot of Hispanic families across the country. There's always this kid or this person, this go-to person who reads everybody's docs. When someone gets a notice, they'll go to so-and-so, hey, can you read this notice I got from the bank? What is this about? So I was that kid in my family. Even though I was a kid, I was literally 10, 11 years old, but I was always there, just wanted to learn and read. I used to love reading. I still do. And over the years, I just, I don't know, I just had that knack for that investigative knack, I guess, to do research and find the information, find the data, and ultimately the answer to a problem. So she was the one who instilled that in me. And as the years progressed, I worked a bunch of different odd jobs. I went to a local community college for a couple of years. And that's really where I started seeing what the real estate world was about. I started talking to the professors. I took the whole curriculum from real estate, legal aspects, appraisal, finance, economics, the whole shebang, not really knowing what I was going to do with it, but I just wanted to get it under my belt as knowledge, right? I mean, just to know in case I ever bought a home or helped my family out, I just had the general terminology down within the real estate industry. So that was when I was 22, 23. I found New American Funding when I was 25, about 20 years ago. And it's kind of a funny story, actually, how I found New American Funding. So Rick Arviello, being the marketing guru and whiz that he is, had the bright idea of running an ad in it's basically a throwaway newspaper that went bankrupt actually 5 years ago here in Orange County. It was called the Penny Saver. And he ran this ad. It was almost like a gimmicky ad, to be honest with you. It said, make $10K a month, no experience necessary, must speak Spanish. Okay, 3-liner and his cell phone on there.
And you're like, bing, check, that's me.
So I saw that and I go, wow, that's all me. So I called him. He answered the phone immediately. He asked me a series of questions, and I just kept repeating, I don't have any experience. I just have book knowledge. I had just gotten my real estate license. Back then, there was no such thing as the NMLS. And he goes, that's okay. That's okay. If you're willing to learn and be coached, you'll do well in the industry and you'll do well with us. But I was the one who was very skeptical. So anyway, I took the leap of faith. I took him up on the offer, and the rest is history. It's been an amazing, incredible 20 years. When I started here, there was 7 people. It was Rick Arviello, the founder, Patty Arviello, the co-founder, Patty's sister, a receptionist, and 2 other loan officers, and myself.
Yeah, that's a great story. We recently had Patty on the show. She's a neat lady.
Awesome.
But what a great story. And I expect nothing less from leadership within this organization about their great stories and their devotion to this great company. Speaking of this great company, by now, most of our audience is very familiar with New American Funding, but just in case there's someone listening today, give us a quick reminder, kind of the mission and purpose of the organization.
Sure. So New American Funding is a privately owned national direct lender. We're licensed in 49 states. The only state we cannot do loans in, unfortunately, is Hawaii. But everywhere else, we are licensed. We are what they call a direct seller servicer to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And what that means is basically we work directly with the agencies and have little to no overlays. So whatever the playbook says with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, we follow it pretty much to the T. We service the majority of loans that we originate. So that's also very important for consumers to recognize. And we just have a very make sense approach to underwriting. That's also important. I know part of the topic here is going to be addressing borrowers in diverse segments. And one of the things we're proud of here at New American Funding is that we manual underwrite a high percentage of the loans we originate. So that's very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it's really cool. Well, you're kind of reflecting back to being one of the first 7 in the company. Let's reflect back a little bit more. I know you were the first Latino and first bilingual loan officer at New American Funding, and you've really helped to lead a revolution in the mortgage industry. Talk about how this looked, 16, 20 years ago and how it looks today.
You know what? That's a great question. And really when I started, still today, but back then, there was a tremendous need. The reason Rick Arviello hired me is because he had the great idea of adding Se Habla Español into a marketing piece, that he was mailing out 2,000 or 3,000 pieces a week. And because of that blurb he added to the marketing piece, the phones started lining up. And they didn't know what to do with all those calls. So here comes Frank Fuentes to take all those leads. The opportunity, the need for loan officers who spoke Spanish was incredible. Back when I started in 2000. Fast forward to 2021, there's still a tremendous need, especially in markets like Atlanta, which are considered emerging markets. Atlanta, South Carolina, the whole Southeast. Texas is still expanding. The upper Eastern corridor around DC, Maryland, Virginia. Tons of opportunity, tons of need for Spanish-speaking loan officers. Why? Because recent migration is no longer coming to California. Now, a lot of immigrants coming from South America, Central America are flocking to the East. It's no longer the West. So that's the reason behind that dynamic.
Yeah. Carol, just listening to him and then reflecting back on all the conversations we've had with various leadership in this organization. All you got to do is just listen to these various conversations and get a good quick how-to on how to run a successful organization and how to build a culture to do amazing things. It's just so much fun to be a part of this. And then, every time we have one of these conversations, Carol, I always learn something new about how they're have a unique approach to this thing. So Frank, where I'm going with that is you've done a lot of work aligning New American Funding with nonprofits. So, for example, like NAREP. talk to us why you do that. What's the reason you do that? And why does that alignment matter?
Well, it's actually very simple. Obviously, the main reason why we align with them is that their mission is right in line with ours, which is increasing the Hispanic homeownership rate, right? So NAREP is actually one of the most influential. First of all, NAREP stands for the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. It's one of the largest minority trade organization of its type in the country. There's close to 30,000 members and close to about 150 chapters nationwide. So aligning with organizations like NAREP is very, very crucially important because of the collaboration that exists between the two organizations. There's a lot of collaboration we do, whether it's lobbying in Washington, D.C. For Hispanic lending, roundtable discussions with the agencies, with FHA, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. NAREP, for the most part, always has a seat at the table. They also produce it's called the Hispanic Homeownership Report, which is the reference point for many major media outlets such as CNN, Bloomberg, you name it. When it comes to speaking about Hispanic homeownership, that's the reference point. And NAREP puts out that report.
Think you need 20% down to become a homeowner? Think again. What if you could buy a home without a down payment? That's right. New American Funding understands that saving for a down payment can be difficult. They have competitive loan programs that can get you into a new home. Their 100% FHA financing loan program makes getting into a new home with no down payment possible. Let one of their home loan professionals pre-qualify you. Contact a New American Funding loan officer today to find out more about these niche loan programs and start your home ownership journey. For more information, call 678-898-3540. That's 678-898-3540.
That's so interesting, and I'm super smart to align yourselves with them. And I guess that's a theme we see over and over with New American Funding. Clearly, leadership plus vision equals success.
Absolutely.
And I know 2020 was a very successful year for New American Funding. Talk about a little bit about your success related to local Latino efforts.
Sure. So we're big advocates of mirroring the communities we serve. And we really do, I think we've done a phenomenal job of really entrenching ourselves within the community, whether it's partnerships with organizations such as NAREP, which are within the real estate industry, or even organizations outside of the real estate industry. We've formed several partnerships, and we're really big about working with our loan officers and our leadership and really entrench ourselves at the street level. I mean, Patty's the perfect example. I mean, you'll see Patty, obviously in a quote unquote normal environment, rubbing shoulder to shoulder with our loan officers all over Southern California. She'll drive to San Diego to show up at a NAREP event where there's 50 or 60 people, or all over out Los Angeles. Obviously, I'm there with her. Most of our senior leadership gets out there. We're not just leaders that are sitting in an ivory tower. We're out there leading by example. That's also one of our mantras.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear any of that. Frank, why does this even matter? I mean, why do you meaning New American Funding, expend so much effort reaching out and serving these underserved communities, Latinos, African Americans? I mean, why does this matter?
Well, first of all, we recognize that there's a huge need for education, for empowerment, and we see the statistics day in, day out. I mentioned the Hispanic homeownership rate. More recently, as of 2016, we initiated our DREAM initiative, which is focused on increasing African American homeownership. So we see those numbers, we live them, we breathe them. And we have set these initiatives, both the New American Dream Initiative and the Latino Focus Initiative, specifically toward increasing both of those homeownership rates. So we've developed internal committees, leadership committees, and again, via the relationships we've established with both NAREP and NAREB, are really both working toward the same goal of achieving those, increasing those homeownership rates in those diverse segments. That's number one. Number two is the business opportunity. There is just so much business opportunity within those segments that it's really incredible. But a lot of it has to do with the culture you built within your organization to attract the talent to in turn serve those communities. And that's the tricky part, to be honest with you. But that's where authenticity, walking the talk really, really comes into play. And at New American Funding, with the leadership of Patty Arviello and Rick Arviello, I mean, they really have paved the groundwork within those two sectors. And really the numbers don't lie as far as production.
Yeah. You've certainly done a phenomenal job in Atlanta of reaching the right leaders to bring New American Funding to the table for the Hispanic community. We've had the pleasure of talking to Jose Placencia a couple of times on the show, and I know he's a past NAREP president and is still very active in the group.
I just wish he was more enthusiastic.
That's an understatement, Todd. He's very enthusiastic. And then we have Marco Sanchez, who serves on the board of directors currently with NAREP. And then addition to Jose, who's in Marietta, New American Funding has another successful Latino branch manager that I think is pretty new to the group, Maui, I may be saying this wrong, Maui Para. And she's located in Sandy Springs and has already been able to grow her team tremendously by hosting home buyer educational workshops in the community. So it's still that, she's leading, she's reaching out, she's showing people how they can become home buyers, really getting down into that grassroots effort.
Any comment? One thing I want to add about that is, yes, the leadership is important. Obviously, the individuals that we're attracting. But I think what really attracts them, besides the culture, besides the leadership, is our ability to close, let's face it, more challenging loans. Okay, because I will say it, even though I am in a VP role, I still originate. I still roll up my sleeves. I have real estate business partners. I know what's going on with underwriting on the street. And I will tell you that borrowers of diverse backgrounds have more challenging loans. Mm-hmm. So that's where operations and underwriting really, really come into play, because your operations staff also has to be somewhat diverse to truly understand the unique cultural nuances of these two demographics. Very, very, very important.
Very, very important. Yes, it is. I've said this before. I'll say it again with you on the mic here. A lot of organizations will hire a diversity officer and they'll update the language on the website and the brochure talking about how important diversity is. You guys are a model organization for how to actually empower your people and actually get out there and do it. And it's most impressive. And as you said earlier, the numbers speak for themselves and the business opportunities speak for themselves. And it's quite impressive. So kudos to you and the whole organization for what you're doing there. We're very excited about the future of New American Funding and where you guys are going. I would love to get some of your thoughts and insights looking ahead to the balance of 2021. What can we look forward to? What new projects you got coming down the pike? What can we get excited about?
Well, to be honest with you, and I'm glad you made the point about diversity, because from a lot of organizations, whether it's the Mortgage Bankers Association, NAREB, NAREB, even the agencies, Freddie Mac, they're all making a huge push for increasing diverse lending. Okay, I can count probably 6 of our competitors, mortgage competitors, that have recently hired chief diversity officers of diversity and inclusion, diversity this, diversity that, because obviously, and it's a great thing. It's a great thing that finally companies are recognizing not only that it's a big business opportunity, but there are hundreds, if not thousands, of underserved communities out there with good borrowers.
Yeah, absolutely.
With borrowers that may not fit in the perfect box for a Rocket mortgage, but with a little massaging here and there, we can make those loans work. Most recently, one important announcement, I'm not sure if you two are aware, but a couple of weeks ago, FHA announced that they're now going to be insuring loans for DACA recipients. Okay, that's a huge deal. There's about 1 million DACA recipients in the country. I know Atlanta has a high concentration. So that's just another example, again, of the business opportunity for individuals in the industry. And keep in mind, these DACA recipients, most of them don't even speak Spanish. They were brought here when they were 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years old. They're all highly educated, savvy borrowers, sophisticated borrowers, averaging 6-digit incomes that are prime borrowers, but unfortunately have been denied the opportunity to become homeowners, but that recently changed. So that's exciting. So into 2020, diversity, and more diversity. It's just a huge opportunity, great communities to work with. So we're excited.
I am too. Great stuff. All right, Frank. Well, sadly, you're running low on time. Before we let you go, should anyone need to connect with you or learn more about New American Funding and all of its great programs and products, where do they go?
Absolutely. So primarily, I would recommend going to our website, which is www.newamericanfunding. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn.
Frank Fuentes, the Vice President of Multicultural Lending at New American Funding. Frank, a real pleasure to have you. Thanks for carving out some time for us. And again,
thank you so much.
Thank you for all the important work that you do.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Well, that wraps this week's All About Real Estate edition. On behalf of our show sponsor, New American Funding, my co-host, Carol Morgan, I am Todd Schnick. That's all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in and listening. And we look forward to seeing you again right here tomorrow. We'll see you then.
Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio is made possible by Denim Marketing, the publisher of Atlanta Real Estate Forum, Atlanta's favorite source for real estate and home building news. Denim Marketing is a comfortable fit, like your favorite pair of jeans. Denim Marketing tailors marketing strategies to meet your specific needs and niche. Try them on for size. They will work to create a perfect fit for your company's marketing program. Call them at 770-383-3360 or send an email to info@denimmarketing.com. For more information on Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio or to inquire about being a guest, contact info@atlantarealestateforum.com. Check out the radio show by visiting atlantarealestateforum.com or by listening to the show on your favorite podcast app. And if you enjoyed today's broadcast, we'd sure appreciate a rating and review on iTunes. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Atlanta Real Estate Forum Radio.